Hey, this is Pat Ricard, aka Project Pat, and you're listening to the Baltimore Beatdown Podcast, the best Ravens podcast on the planet.
That's pretty incredible. In fact, it's Lamarvelous.
Thank you, guys.
Playoffs? Don't talk about playoffs. You kidding me? Playoffs? I just hope we can win a game.
All right. Welcome on back to another edition of the Baltimore Beatdown Podcast. My name is Jake Luke. I'm joined by Spencer Schultz. It's been a little bit of a hiatus here over the holidays for us. I don't think we've recorded a proper episode in at least a week. So back here on the flagship show, doing the damn thing. First episode of 2021. And it's a joyous one indeed, because the Ravens are officially in the playoffs.
The playoffs, they did it. They went on a run. They had to. And I thought it was silly. Looking back when the Ravens were about 6-5, I thought 10-6 would get them there. But ultimately, they needed to run the table. And they did. They got business taken care of. They set a franchise record in rushing yards, running for 400 freaking yards when it mattered the most. And they were explosive. They were decisive. They had a tip ball that didn't go their way and overcame that pretty quickly, made big plays from start to finish. It was a cumulative effort that was on both sides of the football, and it was, 53-man football that the Ravens have been putting together so spectacularly over the last month and a week and getting back on track, looking like a team that could do some damage in the playoffs, and all of those wonderful, wonderful things. They are more decisive on offense. They seem to have a really good sense of direction, able to hit you with the ground game and hit you over top as well. Lamar Jackson had a great day throwing the ball today. Early on, despite only throwing the ball 18 times, he has 3 touchdowns. So he's been pumping those numbers back up. That touchdown percentage number has been way, way, way higher in the second half of the season. And they're a scary team. It's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, shout out to Matthew McConaughey pumping those numbers up big time. And it definitely, it didn't feel, right off the bat, it didn't feel necessarily like this is going to be okay, they're going to pull away and win this game 38-3 like they ultimately did. It kind of felt more like they're going to be in the high 20s. Bengals will maybe get into the teens. And it's just going to be kind of a knockdown, drag out, knuckle buster type of game. But ultimately, they are going to win it. Did wind up being that. They overcome some of the early hiccups. I think I tweeted at one point that it felt like they were a couple dumb mistakes away from really pulling away, and that they just kind of had to keep chipping away at the block. And that was maybe a little bit into the second quarter. And, boy, did they. Lamar hits Miles Boykin for a long touchdown. That really kind of breaks things open, makes it 10-0. Going into the half, he hits Hollywood Brown for a first touchdown of the game. They hook up later for another one. After Hollywood had an early drop, kind of another drop. He had, I think, 41 yards, 2 touchdowns. So he had another nice bounce back effort after a couple mental mistakes. So nice to see that from him. Nice to see that from Boykin. And then, man, this running game is just fucking sick. Like, Gus had another good game quietly. I think he caught a pass or two. And then Lamar was good in the run game. But J.K. Dobbins, man, like that guy. And this is not me, like, coming back to my take about how, oh my God, like, you're so smart. But, like, I'm so glad that they saved him for this moment, because this guy is carrying them on his back right now.
He is generating big plays left and right. And we finally got to see him bust one, Tatiana, all the way to the house. And it was a beautiful thing. He makes guys miss. He hits the hole hard. He keeps runs alive. He wears defenses down. And you can say how much running backs don't matter and all of that, but when Mark Ingram gets his run, someone who's not quite as explosive, doesn't have the same juice necessarily, isn't as decisively hitting those small holes the way that Gus Edwards is, but you can tell the impact that Edwards and Dobbins have on the game. Justice Hill comes in, has some nice runs here and there as well, but those guys hit the damn hole like a freight train and get first downs. They fight for yards. Gus Edwards gets through holes that are so small compared to his body and hits them mindlessly. He reminds me of a shark, the way he runs the football. There's just a killer instinct about it that he is born with. there's no getting him off his path. And it's been really exciting to watch. This offense didn't have Macari, so they threw Tristan Colon-Castillo in there. They didn't have too many road bumps in that department. A little bit of early pass rush, but other than that, the Bengals tried to play a really conservative, see if Lamar will run himself into trouble kind of pass rush, playing some contain, and he didn't. He had some majestic scrambles running around buying time and fired the ball over top quite a bit, especially early on, which then backed the Bengals up, and then he hit them underneath. We saw a couple nice little smoke, just alert throws to Marquise Brown, who had a monster stiff arm that was so sick. That was secretly my favorite play of the game. Marquise just attacking downhill, putting his freaking hand into somebody's face and fighting forward. So they're peaking right now. They've got guys that were struggling midway through the season, and there's 1,000 reasons why we can speculate on why that is. Corona, lack of playing time, lack of opportunity, youth, inexperience, all those kinds of things. But Boykin has been cooking. He is sealing dudes off in the run game like always. He is taking good, sharp angles. He's getting his eyes in the right spot. The ball is being located. Seems like they've worked a lot on getting him the ball in space and him understanding where the catch point is going to be, how to take the right angle to where Lamar is going to throw the ball, things like that, and reading leverage as well. And Hollywood Brown is just working so well in the end zone. He sneaks and gets one of those toe taps again. We've seen at least like 4 of those this year.
For every red zone threat that is like 6'3", 6'4", or above, like that's able to like out muscle guys in the red zone, I think it might be equally sort of efficient, especially in today's NFL, for a smaller guy that can kind of slip in between, the defenders and sort of make himself smaller. And that toe tap, I think, a great example of that.
Yeah, and he has been working really well in the end zone and become kind of a red zone weapon as well. So it feels like they're really cooking in the red zone. The run game has been more decisive. Roman really dialing it up in that sense. They're relying on that bash option, that quarterback counter. They pull some different guys and do different things with that, but that has become more of the primary run concept with some zone runs, aside from the read option where Lamar is carrying the ball to the outside. We actually did see one of those today that worked well. I think he got about 12, 15 yards on one, but they have been crushing people with those bashes. And we kind of see Tyler Huntley come in the game, and it didn't really work the same. And of course, the threat of the pass has probably gone somewhat, but that's a testament to Lamar Jackson's burst and vision and straight acceleration. And it's dangerous right now. They're really tough to defend. It just freezes linebackers. And if you can get a running back, they can blow by a defensive end or an edge or something of the sort. The linebacker is going to be flat-footed, worried about Lamar Jackson a little bit too often. So I'm curious to see how they rely on that. How that matches up against the Titans. Might do a little bit better this time around. They seem to be night and day in terms of efficiency and flow and game script as to where they were when they played Tennessee, and really were up and down, relying on a couple big plays and some off-script stuff and improvisation during plays. And now they are playing within the system, and it feels like Roman is really, really, really dialing up different run concepts that are hurting teams. And continuity on the offensive line helped a long way. And I think Ben Powers has had a lot to do with that for sure. Fluker has kind of come in and been a little bit more solid than we expected. While he's not a world beater, he's getting his assignments executed. And Roman kind of, I think, finally realized, I don't have guys that are really just blowing linemen off the ball. I need to create some conflict and get blocks to the second level and maybe help this offensive line out a little bit more instead of just trying to say, oh, we're stronger than you at the point of attack. And doing some things to get Dobbins and Lamar Jackson and Gus Edwards in space, and it has worked oh so well. So at this point, this offense is absolutely as hot as it could be, and it was a joy to watch today, especially after a good start, but a turnover that wasn't really anyone's fault, but it happened, and the defense is able to make a stand, prevent it from being a 10-3, 10-7 game, and getting into some sort of little dogfight there. And then the offense just didn't relent after that point.
We do have Ben Rose chiming in early here. Jake, please do an impression of Chris Collinsworth explaining why the best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup. See, the thing is, Al, you hear all this stuff about Maxwell House and our house in the middle of the street. And the thing about that is it's great and all, but waking up and talking about Folgers in your cup, there's just simply nothing better than that.
And I'll tell you what, Al.
I had to.
Or I'll tell you what, Chris. I need to figure out how to do a good Al Michaels. I can't think of his voice in my head. But yeah, the best part of J.K. Dobbins is busting a long touchdown.
Yeah, that that run was fucking sick, especially with Huntley in the game. You know, there's no, like you mentioned, not as much of a threat of a pass. And by the way, needs to be mentioned, threw a nasty old stiff arm in the face of one Jermaine Pratt, who the guy, you know, if he didn't type like 6 little words out and like tweet them into the ether, then he wouldn't be dealing with this mountain of shit that he is right now. But Ravens fans are certainly letting him have it for his pregame tweet about how it was quote unquote over for the Ravens.
Yeah, Dobbins was licking his chops a little bit talking about it. And it was ironic to see a guy who has suffered the spin cycle of Lamar Jackson and been absolutely annihilated by Jackson several times before. Talking that talk, but it is what it is. Trying to give the Bengals a little juice. Maybe gave the Ravens a little bulletin board material. We never know how effective that stuff truly is, but did not turn out to be true.
Yeah, it certainly didn't. Okay, so I guess we've done a little bit of a sufficient recap with the game. We'll obviously get to that with questions. Do you want to start on Twitter or on IG?
I can get the old Instagram going. We got the first one coming in. Black Ice 85. Do you think the Ravens are better prepared for the Titans this time around? I think their offense is just playing with more identity, with more efficiency. They're getting to a lot of 3rd and shorts and being able to really hammer the ball. They know who they are a little bit more. We mentioned maybe not trying to force the issue, running downhill quite as much and attacking the perimeter, getting Duvernay in space a bit on some sweeps and things like that. Hollywood working underneath. Boykin has really found a groove. So it just feels like they are better prepared to play football overall on the offensive side of the ball. The questionable part is this defense, and we got a couple questions about that later, but they didn't have Calais Campbell the last time these two teams played, and maybe not Brandon Williams. I can't remember. Titans game?
No, I don't think he was.
I think they had no Calais Campbell, no Brandon Williams, and they kind of held Henry in check other than one late run and then the final dagger in overtime. I think he really only had 2 really threatening runs. And Calais Campbell was nursing that injury a little bit. Seems like he's gotten back up to speed, creating some commotion last week and this week. Brandon Williams playing good football. And Justin Madubuike in that time period has really stepped up. So I believe that the Ravens are a little bit more battle-tested in terms of having to have a lot of depth come in. Chris Board playing a shitload over the last month or so. He's gotten tons of experience. He had some nice reps again today, it looked like. And Anthony Averett coming on, man. I mean, you're a little bit more reliable, it feels like, with Averett being your cornerback 3, cornerback 4. We'll see what happens with Jimmy Smith. But yeah, I think they're a little better prepared for sure. I think they are getting hot at the right time, and hopefully this defense is able to get healthy right at the right time.
Yeah, Harbaugh making some comments about how Unique Ngakoue and Jimmy Smith should be ready to go for the playoff game, which we obviously do know now to be the Titans, which would be beneficial because that's kind of a tough draw in the first round, obviously. But I do think they are going to be more prepared to answer the original question. I think, it's good to have gotten a look at them in the regular season for one thing. You suffered a humiliating loss, and you definitely learned some things about yourself that I think colored what you did for the rest of the season. I know they suffered a couple or maybe just one tough loss after that, but that was such a weird spot to be in for the season. Like they just come off that weird loss to the Patriots in the driving rain. And like, maybe this is me being like meatball fan already trying to like rationalize or do whatever I need to do to psych myself up for this one. But it just feels like you're talking about 2 entirely different teams than when you're talking about the Ravens right now versus the Ravens going into that first Titans game, which they didn't lose by much. They probably should have honestly won it if Lamar doesn't throw a stupid interception and let them back into it. So I don't know. I'm a lot more. And I was even confident. I wouldn't say totally confident, but I was relatively confident going into that game. I'm a lot more confident that this is at the very least not going to be just an absolute bitch slap by Tennessee. I think the Ravens are ready to hang with them in this one.
For sure. They did have a big lead in that game at one point. They throw a pick, Titans drive back down, and the Ravens can't move the ball again, all that kinds of stuff. Titans really messed the Ravens up with some double moves with Corey Davis and A.J. Brown. The Ravens were playing a lot of single high, and they were having Corey Davis really attack inside and then hit back outside, some post corner type stuff and sluggo type stuff and things like that. And that really, Marcus Peters didn't have a great game. I don't think Marlon Humphrey had a great game either. And it's been a little different since then. They have some more guys healthy, so hopefully they're able to do some different things. Moving on, Mason Legg. Assuming all players back next game, what do the chances look like against Tennessee? Chances overall, I think it's going to be a tough matchup. These teams know each other pretty well. This will be their third time playing in just about exactly a year. And the Titans have a pretty defined offense. They run zone, and they run bootlegs off of it, and they run play actions off of it, and want to get A.J. Brown and Corey Davis in space.
And when they've done that a million times and they've convinced you that that's one of those three things is going to happen on a critical third or fourth down, Tannehill keeps it on a read option and picks it up every fucking time.
A boot. Yup, he'll burn you on a fucking boot because you want to crash down in to go get a body on Henry, and Tannehill is fast enough to hurt you. So they have, that's pretty much what the Browns offense is to an extent as well. And the Browns did put up points, but it's going to be a tough physical game. I like the Ravens' chances a lot. I think that the Titans gave the Ravens a little bit of a ass whooping at the end of that game after jumping up and down or whatever, having a meeting on their shield, and Harbaugh and Vrabel getting into it. So I think the Ravens definitely are humbled by the Titans yet again, and also understand how to play with them a little bit better. So I think the Ravens have a little bit more multiplicity defensively and the ability to maybe do some different things. We mentioned Calais Campbell being out in the first one, Brandon Williams as well. So you've got a lot more confident depth. You don't have a guy like Broderick Washington in there who, has tons of potential. Sure, he's a mobile dude, but he's not Calais Campbell. He's not going to be able to hold his own and eat blocks and wrap up Derrick Henry and do things like that. So it's going to be interesting. There were some crazy calls in that Titans game too. So that one was just wild. And it was good to see that the Ravens kind of hung there with them, had a lead at one point, and didn't just get rolled on again by Derrick Henry. But you got to think adding Campbell and Williams back in the factor will make a difference.
Absolutely.
Jason Woodbury, Boykins. Is he the answer? He's been getting open lately for big plays. I think he's part of the answer. I think timing has a big thing to do with it, and him understanding. And he had his role reduced a good bit after some rough games early on, less snaps. Talked about working with Lamar and staying after practice, getting right, and it seems that they did. He has been visioning to Lamar. I think they're using him a lot more where he can kind of look back and see where the ball is coming from. It's a lot of in-breaking stuff, and him being able to use his long strides and great athleticism to separate and see the ball at the same time, and use that big old catch radius. As Jake and I have talked about quite a bit, he's not this big, dunker. He's not this posterizing perimeter player who's a physical force and can moss you all the time and things like that. He's more of a finesse kind of receiver that has a really big wingspan and does have a big catch radius, but not a mega physical guy as a route runner or anything at this point in his career. So getting him into space, giving him some good, easy angles where he can get his eyes back on the ball, and it's helped a lot. So it's really just redefining his role, understanding what he's good at, what he's struggling with, and not asking him to do things that he's not great at.
Yeah, definitely. I tweeted out, I think I was talking to Matt Wise about this on Twitter, that he's pretty much rounding into, or at least has in the last month or so, rounded into like a high-end number 3 wide receiver, which is fine. And like people of the Madden generation think a receiver that's 6'4" and has his athletic tangibles need to be like, this dominant sort of perimeter kind of guy. And I don't like that's just really not his game. And like, he's not necessarily just a slot guy. So like, there's a lot of different ways that you can use guys of different sizes. So like boiling it down to like, he has to do X, Y, or Z is kind of weird. I think he's just sort of that third option that can definitely make big plays for you. And if you forget about him, then you're liable to get burned because like he's got all the speed, he's got good size. And he's shown over the last month that he can be a reliable catcher of the football in crucial situations. So very impressed with him. And especially after we were really kind of getting on him when he was in kind of his lowest point mentally, I think he seems to have bounced back nicely from that. And honestly, the Ravens might not be where they are if he hadn't. So credit to him. Great point. And it takes some mental resilience. It takes some willpower to get kind of shit on. And he ate crow, went out in front of the press and said, it's on me. I've got to be better. I don't get a ton of opportunities. I don't get a ton of targets. So when I mess up, I know the balls might not be coming back my way. And to have Des Bryant come in as well, because you're probably not getting the job done, and to reemerge shows some fortitude and some cojones and all that good stuff. So great to see how Miles, among many other players this year, have progressed. Moving on, Andy Lee 2000.
Should the Ravens re-sign Dez next season? What do you got?
It depends. Like if he wants to do it for that vet minimum type deal, then yeah, sure, why not? You probably don't need to totally shell out for him because they're probably looking at other options at the receiver position already, and you could maybe supplement some of what you got with him in the draft. But he's been good in the blocking game, kind of low key. Like he had a nice block today for J.K. Dobbins, and 2 touchdowns over the previous 2 games. So he's a good rotational guy. I'd love to have him back. I do kind of wonder if he would say like, yeah, I'll take another like 1-year deal and try to continue to improve my stock because this was kind of a weird year to begin with anyway. So maybe just settle down here for at least another season or so and see what we got. So if he wants to do that, I'm all for it.
Yeah, and at this point in his career, it feels like he really is just trying to play, and he didn't want to go out the way that he did, kind of having a soured relationship in Dallas and then trying to go to the Saints and suffering an injury. He didn't feel like mentally he was done playing some damn football. So I don't think he's in it for the money at this point. It's not like 32-year-old, 33-year-old receivers are getting huge paydays on the free agent market that have 10 catches in the past 3 years. And so I think, yeah, it feels like he's not done, and he's a good red zone weapon for sure. He's worked his way across in crucial red zone situations over the past month or so. And yeah, it feels like why not? Unless you want to go in another direction, more youth. But with Willie Snead, is Willie Snead's a free agent?
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, Willie Snead maybe being gone. We'll see how that pans out. Kind of feels like you drafted Duvernay to take over for Snead, perhaps. But you want to have some veteran experience in there. It feels like he's had a really positive impact in that receiver room. From the rumblings, of course, they want to speak nicely to the media about him, but you can kind of tell that the guys have taken to him for sure. WBC Caps. How are we feeling about the Titans? Looks like they've been a little hit or miss as of late. I don't know, man. They just don't have a great defense. They can kind of make some plays when they need to, but they don't really frighten you defensively, and their offense does frighten you a bit. But if you can get their run game bottled up and take away play action, if you can get them to 2nd and long or 3rd and long, they're not really scary. And the Ravens had them in some of those situations, but like we mentioned, when you got Broderick Washington playing overtime snaps for you and trying to get the job done, it wasn't enough ultimately in a tough game. So I'm not, I don't have any kind of trepidation about the Ravens facing the Titans. I think it'll definitely be a difficult matchup, and Titans have guys that are going to make plays. A.J. Brown is going to make a play. Derrick Henry is going to make a play. Tannehill, he has great freaking ball placement. He'll put some balls on the money. He doesn't turn the ball over a ton. So tough team. They're a playoff team 2 years in a row. They won their division this year. They were great in the playoffs last year. Vrabel has them with a nice, consistent scheme, and it's a tough matchup.
Yeah, it definitely is. It's going to be scary and weird, but like my sort of one piece of advice would just be to embrace it. Like it's going to be fun as shit. Like this, whether we like it or not, is probably like developing into one of the better rivalries in the league right now. After obviously
100%.
One of that loss in the playoffs last year that bled into the game this year with them going out onto the logo and like pulling all those hijinks. So, as much as that shit kind of irks you a little bit as a fan, it adds more juice to these games. And like, how many good ones, of those are there in the NFL right now? So it's definitely exciting to be a part of that. Now we just say embrace it. And it's going to be weird. It's going to be tough, but hey, man, any given Sunday, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I like that. It brings a non-divisional opponent as a rival. The Bengals aren't a rival right now.
I would say, so here's what I would say to do. Look up America's Game, the 2000 Baltimore Ravens on YouTube. Watch that. It's an hour, really good documentary about the Ravens 2000 Super Bowl season. Ton of stuff in there about when the Ravens and Titans were at their peak kind of rivalry, like in the early 2000s. It all started there. Go back and watch that. Eddie George, Ray Lewis, Jeff Fisher, really fun teams kind of going at each other, and really kind of legendary fun game. So if you're a younger fan, I highly recommend going back and checking those out. Check out our rewatchable episode that we did talking about the 2003 loss to the Titans at home. Gary Anderson game-winning field goal. There's a lot of connective tissue between these two franchises in the playoffs as well. So I think it's a fun rivalry, and I'm excited there's going to be another big-time installment of it.
And in the end, the Lamar Jackson, Lamar Jackson is just playing with a ton of confidence. He's delivering the ball down the field. Is scrambling, which we've been begging, just take off when it's there, go convert first downs, get guys to start being in no man's land where they're trying to, contain Lamar Jackson in the scrambling game or try and cover deep and kind of pick your poison there. And he's been able to extend some plays and do some things. Haven't seen a ton of really errant decisions from him lately or anything like that. But at the same time, Tannehill rarely makes bad decisions. That's part of the reason they have that nice, simple offense, that he can just be accurate. But Lamar Jackson's playing a special brand of football right now and feels like he's really, 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 really wants to destroy the Titans. And I think him using his legs a little more comfortably as that sore knee, kind of looked like, thinking back, maybe we underestimated how big of a deal that was. And he sits out for a week with COVID. He gets sick, so he's probably actually on his ass and he might be sick, but his body is healing, his sore knee, things like that. Nice little break for him there with a bye week early on as well. So he's just been pretty lights out for the most part, delivering the ball, seeing the red zone really well, hitting some stuff over top, checking down a ton. So feels like they might be a little more consistent offensively and able to apply some pressure to the Titans. Moving on, 3 tones as a comment, bring on the Titans. The Ravens want all the smoke. I feel that way as well. Make it the hardest path possible. Then we've got the 5-time Gold Glover, Adam Jones, 357. I bet Dr. Schultz wants blood, but Jake, are you on board for Titans? I already am getting nervous.
I'm all the way on board, man. This is going to be fun as shit. And this is what it comes down to. The funny thing to me is we talk about, and Voss gets a little fired up about the fact that they haven't won a playoff game. And to me, it's well, they fucking went 14-2 last year and they were the number 1 seed. To me, that's better than winning a wild card playoff game, in my opinion. It feels great to win a wild card game, but it's I don't know, it's just that's kind of arbitrary to me. Let's just have fun with this thing and try to go and I mean, I say try, but let's have the team try to go win against the Titans. Obviously that's going to be fun. I don't know. I feel like getting too caught up and scared. When you get to the playoffs, it's just kind of all bets are off. You get behind the lads. That's what it's all about. And I'm 100% behind them this week. And I'm pumped. Who would they have gone? Would it have been the Steelers? Would it have been the Colts? A lot of people were saying, and it actually almost wound up happening, that they were going to go to Indy and play the Colts if the results had held. But the Titans wind up making this miraculous play with Tannehill hitting A.J. Brown down the side towards the end of their game against the Texans. So, they kicked that field goal and win it. And, you got the Titans instead of the Colts, which the Colts probably would have been an easier matchup, but I don't know, is going into Indianapolis and beating old ass Phillip Rivers, is that really going to make you feel a whole lot better, especially if you don't win the next week? I don't know. You talk about exercising demons and facing adversity. This is the fucking game to do it. This is the matchup to do it if you're Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. So I'm all the way in. Yeah,
I like the toughest path possible. I like the
I don't necessarily usually think that way. I'm just give me the easiest whatever. But guess what? It didn't work out that way, and you got a big opportunity here. That's what I'm thinking.
Especially because the Ravens haven't gone down to Nashville, been able to play around on their turf. And Ravens have I feel like they have a better record on the road with Lamar Jackson. I might be wrong saying that, but I feel like they play better on the road. I don't know why. They've had big wins in Seattle and some different places.
Harbaugh definitely does too, because they were always a wild card. The Steelers were always winning the division back in their kind of peak Harbaugh heyday in the 2008 through 2012 era. So
they've won under Harbaugh. I believe they've won 3-4 playoff games at home and 10 on the road.
Yeah, 10 on the road. It's insane.
So for some reason, Harbaugh is able to have a better system, a better way of communicating, accessing the players, getting into their mentality. And I don't know what it is, but the Ravens like being them dogs. This is Baltimore Ravens football, going on the road in the playoffs and having, to face some tough opponents and go get it done. So I feel like they're going to. I feel like it's time. And getting a little more meta, you and I have been on the same wavelength. We didn't think this was necessarily a Super Bowl team. We thought they were 1 year away from that still. And I think it is time for them to get that playoff monkey off their back. It feels like they went through the adversity. They played the Titans already and did not play well at all in the second half of that game, and had that within their grasp and understand what it takes now to be able to finish that game off with the run game and having that run game be more dynamic, hit the perimeter a little bit more. And the way that Gus and J.K. Dobbins are running the ball right now, They are forcing missed tackles. They are running through contact. They are creating explosive plays. The line is being used more effectively, getting guys on the perimeter, getting blockers into the second level, things like that. So I think the Ravens are primed for a little bit of an upset. Titans defense lets up points, man. The Texans just took them to the wire, 38 points. Like, their defense is vulnerable. Just gotta keep punching them. And Nate Malarkey adds on to that. Nate Malarkey 6. I'm not sure if you guys watched the Titans game, but they are running the read option nicely. I actually took a little bit of a snooze during that game. Don't know how, but I drifted off into La La Land, but I will certainly be watching that one.
Yeah, so when I said like read option, it was right at the end there, like when they had a sequence where they were kind of mucking up this sequence down by the goal line to basically go ahead within the 2-minute mark. So it gets to like third down, and you're kind of thinking like, can the Texans do this thing? And then Tannehill, fucking clockwork. He fakes it to Henry, pulls it down, and it's just a wide open run to the left. And I feel like, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like I've seen Tannehill do that a million times since coming to the Titans. He's always been a mobile guy, was a wide receiver at Texas A&M. So, you got to account for him big time.
That is scary. He has enough leg. He has enough mobility to beat you. He's had quite a few goal-to-go rushing touchdowns. They love him on boots and things like that. And he knows when to pull the ball, and he can beat edge-type guys to the corner. He's got just enough speed. Yeah, he was a receiver at Texas A&M that gives you a threshold of what his speed is. And he had a big run against the Ravens in Baltimore this year on a boot. And I believe it was like 2nd and 10, and he just pulled the ball. The edge crashed, and he ends up getting 19 yards. And I think the Ravens had them pinned back at like the 10, and then all of a sudden they're up towards midfield a little bit, and you're like, well, shit. He just has that extra little element in his game. So trying to be able to use guys like Tyus Bowser and Ngakoue to contain him and send some DBs on him and make sure they're taking good angles is definitely part of your thinking there.
He reminds me of prime Alex Smith with like more balls.
Yeah, I like that mobility comparison for sure. They can scoot, they can hurt you with their legs. They are capable of beating angles and getting first downs, especially when you don't see it coming and you're kind of flat with them and they're already moving ahead of you, and they take care of themselves and take care of the ball. I like that comparison. NRKK. Anthony Averett's progression in the last few weeks has been solid. Will he still be relied upon even with Jimmy Smith coming back? I believe so. I don't think Jimmy's healthy all the way. He seems to have really fucked his shoulder up when he tried to submarine under a tight end on that screen pass and go blow a block up, which he did. But Averett has been playing with mega confidence, really aggressive, fighting through the catch point, like playing the same kind of way.
He had himself a pick 6 today.
Almost, yeah. He kind of undercut something and came back. We didn't really see a replay that showed what the play was or anything.
Yeah,
but
by the way, fucking get it together, by the way. You have a Hollywood drop early on. They just willy-nilly don't show like much of a replay of that at all.
Awful today. Get
close into it. Fucking Adam Archuleta, the color guy, he's sitting there like, oh, yeah, the Bengals, you do X, Y, and Z, and they can keep this game close. They could win. Week 17, Tyler Boyd. Fucking get it together. Like, it's, like
what was the other broadcast that we hated recently?
I'm
I remember I think it was like Ian Eagle kept calling Lamar Kyler Murray or something. That was a while ago, but there was another really bad broadcast.
That was Greg Humble against the Bengals, the first game, when he kept calling. He literally said, I keep calling him Murray, and then he kept doing it. That was kind of sick, honestly.
There was another bad broadcast recently, though. I can't fully remember. But yeah, there's no replays today. Penalties aren't getting shown again. Like, all kinds of stuff. And they just wanted to do everything they could to be like, oh, this game could end up maybe being close. Like, don't go to red zone. Like, stay with us.
And hand job D+ CBS team today, Spiro Didis and Adam Archuleta, whatever the fuck. Come on. I actually kind of like Spiro most of the time. But
yeah, he's fine. I wasn't getting anything great out of that one. They're just making a bunch of broad ass statements about.
They were definitely like out in some socially distanced like brewery on the Kentucky side of the river, just like getting hammered the night before.
We did it. We're done. That was probably their last game of the year.
17. Yeah, they're like, yeah, we're done. Spirit was like, I got to go call college basketball or something in a couple months, but for now, I'm going to enjoy myself. So tough effort from them.
Right. Back to the question. Anthony Averett has been he plays the same kind of way Marlon Humphrey does right now, in terms of like taking sharp angles and aggressively fighting to the catch point. And he's had some accurate strikes to the catch point, a couple of pass breakups. We mentioned he undercut one. Didn't really see what happened because there's no fucking replays, but he jumped underneath on like a speed out or something and got his hands on it. almost grabbed himself an interception. And, oh, my God, Marcus Peters' interception was so filthy, so disgustingly sick.
He tried to drop it, too, but he kept that focus. And that was, especially after he's mixing it up with the ref and the sort of ghost PI on AJ Green. I didn't get a great look at it, but yeah, that was tight. And that was kind of
he was saying that he was trying to signal to the ref that his face mask was grabbed. Peters' own face mask was grabbed too. He was like, he grabbed my face mask. How can I be DPI? That
was a funny moment. I forget how many points that were up. It was just enough that if they scored a touchdown, it's like, okay, I can't switch to red zone or anything. So they have that big run by the running back.
It was like 24-3 or something.
Yeah, exactly. They have that big run by the running back, and then they're kind of working their way in, and then the penalty on Peters. And then he just says, fuck it, I'll do it myself, and he picks it off in the end zone. Love Marcus Peters. Good for him.
Right. But I think Averett definitely gets in the rotation, even if Jimmy comes back. He has been fresh. He deserves playing time right now. He's hot. He has been taking great angles. He made a back-to-back play sequence early on in the game where he blew up a blocker. I think they have Mike Thomas, number 80, and it was an RPO backside on a screen, and it was a 2-on-3 for the offense, and he blew into his blocker and took the angle away and then made a tackle. And then the next play, I think the Bengals got an illegal formation, but he annihilated an in-breaking route and got it away, pass break up, and then had another one late where he almost had the interception. So I think he has certainly earned reps in the playoff game. Blonde Anthony Averett is a dog, and I love to see it.
Do we have to talk about the effect of blondness on some of these players? Because I think Judon has done it at certain points. Some of these other guys have done it, and me likey.
Yeah, if you're getting a little bit of a cold spell, bleach your shit, and you'll be good to go. You'll be right as rain, brother.
You might look like the freshman, trying to get into SIGEP or whatever, walking into the cafeteria. But other than that, it's going to help your play.
Or any wrestling team in like the mid 2010s. At a high school that was like, oh, we're going to states, we're dyeing our hair, and then 5 other wrestling teams do it, and you're like, it's all sick, we're all sick.
Yeah, like maybe we could have like done something a little more unique, but it's okay.
It's all good. Gives you whatever it needs, gives you that dog mentality. Moving on, Drew 2x._. What will the Ravens do with Mark Ingram? I think they should scratch him, honestly. At this point, I would rather see Justice Hill be the third back. I do like that Ingram has the playoff experience, yada, yada, but he just doesn't have the burst right now. If I'm going to scratch one of those guys, it's going to be Ingram. Justice Hill is a special teams contributor. I love Ingram, love what he did last year. Valiant effort for the Ravens, 15 total touchdowns, I think damn near 1,500 scrimmage yards as well, something like that. And he just doesn't have the juice anymore, and you can see it. He was able to get a couple nice runs off today, but they kind of start inserting Ingram middle of the game, and he's getting freaking stood up by Josh Bynes. Josh Bynes laid into him like 3 times and kind of stonewalled him. And you just don't see that happen to Gus Edwards. And J.K. Dobbins has more explosiveness, so I don't think you want Ingram on the field much. If he's on the field, hopefully it's because the Ravens are up big and not because one of the other guys couldn't go. That was something I was a little worried about in this game. Kept running Dobbins. I know he had the chest injury last game, and Edwards looked like I know he had a back injury or something. He was questionable, and he looked kind of like he was grimacing just a little bit on the sideline. So hopefully he's good to go. I feel like he might get a day off here, as he had a really violent game today. A lot of power situation runs, 3rd and short, stuff like that, hammering into the hole. But the man is a shark, so I think he'll be fine. But ultimately, Ingram, it feels like his time's done, and J.K. Dobbins loves him. Gus Edwards loves him. He has mentored Kamara and Dobbins and Edwards at this point, and those guys speak very highly of him, but I think it's time to part ways with Mr. Ingram.
Yeah, I agree. Aaron just tweeted that the Ravens open as 3.5-point road favorites in this game.
That's wild. Yeah.
I felt like that warrants a mention.
Yeah.
I'm sure that'll probably come down over the week, but
it just feels like the Titans aren't going to beat them 3 times in a row. Like that's playing that sort of trend. And with the Ravens offense averaging, I don't even know. I think they were averaging 230 yards rushing a game over the last 4. And I guess that's up to almost 300 yards over the last 5. And the Titans defense really being lackluster. The Ravens left opportunities on the board last time. A couple throws got away from Lamar. Didn't step in and rip one to Hollywood early like he did with Boykin. Had one where he waited for Andrews and that was late in the game and kind of could have put the Ravens in a good position to win that game. And Lamar waited on it and couldn't get the ball there and floated it over Andrew's head and made it a tough angle for him to grab it. And game got away from him there. But the Ravens have had a little bit of a killer instinct lately, had their backs against the wall, and definitely want to go handle business against the Titans. I think Titans defense is not impressive. Like, they got stomped on by the Packers. They controlled the game. A.J. Dillon ran downhill on them. Texans put up 38 points. I didn't see that game, but that was a must-win situation. You don't see them handling business against a division opponent. I think their offensive line isn't healthy either, so we shall see.
Yeah, I guess we will.
We'll get more into it later this week, but moving on. How do you think, Ozzy7, how do you think the Ravens defensive line will play come playoff time? I think Judon's ready. I think Calais Campbell, he's, going to be able to muster up. He's wanted that playoff run. He got one in 2017 with the Jaguars, watches that entire franchise deteriorate around him. Brandon Williams has to know this is kind of getting towards the end of his career here. You would think last year or two coming up. And you got guys like Ngakoue playing for contract, Bowser playing for a contract, Derek Wolfe playing for a contract, McPhee playing for a contract, all these free agents and guys trying to prove themselves. And, I feel like McPhee is quietly one of the stalwarts of this defense and a guy that's able to do some things and set the edge really hard and make plays. And he almost forced an interception, had a little bit of quarterback hit, and Judon, you kind of hear on a hot mic just shrieking because he thought the ball was coming into his hands and he folded at the sideline. But McPhee's been a menace and they're deep right now. The guys are healthy again. Ngakoue, if he's able to go, they have maximum depth across that defensive line. You got Jalen Ferguson, some reps today too, because Ngakoue was out. He hadn't been getting a ton of run lately, but good to see him get back in the rotation. And you went out and got Campbell and Wolfe for this Titans game. And you didn't have Williams and Campbell the last time they played, but now you do. So did what Eric DeCosta, they basically overcompensated. They drafted 2 linebackers and signed two defensive linemen and drafted a defensive lineman after they got fucking rolled on by the Titans last year. Couldn't stop Derrick Henry, couldn't get any penetration into the backfield. And now you're going to have pretty much everybody at about as good a full strength as you'll get going into the playoffs. So does Eric DeCosta's formula ultimately work? We will see.
Yeah, it feels like this is the kind of the game to just let it fucking rip. Calais Campbell he's played recently, but he's basically been on the shelf these last couple of weeks coming off of COVID. He had a bad bout with it. He's had his injuries. Wolfe has played well recently. I think he's going to keep that rolling. Brandon Williams has to step up too. It's just it's time. You guys have the last 2 games in particular. I feel like it's sort of been even if they are playing, you go out there and fake it around a little bit and we can take care of business against these lower tier teams. But now it's win or go home. So get your ass out there and start to play well. And I think they are kind of peaking at the right time in that regard. Campbell, it's good to see him kind of suit up the last couple of weeks, and it's time to put it all together this coming week.
Luckily, it appears they might be getting healthy at the exact right time. Moving on. Enjoy Slurms. Natty Bow flowing tonight. Let's get shit popping and throw up the X in Nashville. Yeah, boy.
Yeah, no Natty Bow for the kid as I'm doing dry January. So not going to be drinking through any of these playoff games as far as I'm concerned. But, we'll see how far they take it. And God willing, I will be drinking to celebrate a Ravens game at some point in the next month. But, of course, that is a long way off, and we're not making any predictions in that.
Let's get it popping. Moving on, Sagan Alsop 52. How confident are you in this team? I don't want to throw the wool over my own eyes. I was very confident in them last year heading into the Titans matchup. But at this point, watching how they've reestablished consistency offensively has been awesome. And watching pieces come together, signing a guy like Eric Tomlinson off the street who comes in and proves to be a really effective blocker and is making blocks in space, and seeing Hollywood Brown have a really rough middle patch of the season, as well as a couple, horrible drops. He had a big drop in the Browns game, ends up scoring the game-winning touchdown. Is a big drop today, kind of. That looked like it might have been a little bit of a tough catch.
It definitely was. CBS was kind enough to grant us a fleeting shot of it, and
what the fuck? They didn't even show it. Show that 3 times from 3 different angles.
Yeah, they showed it. They showed the proper like close up angle like literally once, and as soon as I saw it, I was like, yeah, okay, like they kind of did him
It
dirty.
was a little behind him, and it looked like he trapped it off his shoulder pad. It was like not as perfect a ball placement as you might want to see
For a guy who, like, if he hadn't had the struggles that he's had, like nobody would be getting on him about that. But
right. He drops some passes from time to time, but makes big plays, getting right. But watching all of them click, watching Andrews basically just get mauled this entire year and still make play after play when needed. Almost had a huge catch into like triple coverage on a really accurate but tough catch at one point and wasn't able to hold on, then makes a huge block the next play. Watching this offensive line come together, and it feels like they have been consistently moving the football, consistently punching the ball in the red zone, moving the ball, running downhill, getting to the perimeter in the run game and punching the ball in. Lamar being super calm in the red zone, scanning, working through his progressions, having guys get open. The spacing has been much better. Guys aren't running into each other nearly as much or running too close together, and being really aggressive. They are aggressively seeking it. And just the general mentality of like last year at this time, it was like basically Super Bowl this, Super Bowl that. We want to win the Super Bowl. We want to win the Super Bowl. It's like, all right, you guys haven't done anything yet other than win your division. You did get a bye sick, but then that showed that you were looking past it, looking for the Super Bowl, looking for the rematch with the Chiefs, and got rolled on by the Titans. So take it one game at a time and do not overlook the Titans, as they now know after getting beaten by them twice in a year. And it would be pretty fucking embarrassing to get beaten a third time in a row by them, especially if it's, if the Titans are able to kind of run away in that game, then you got to go back to square one. You don't have the right formula. You went out and, like we mentioned, you went out and got Campbell. You went out and got Wolf, drafted all these dudes up front, and it didn't do anything. If you end up losing this game, it wasn't the right combination to get it done. And with Greg Roman and Wink Martindale seemingly being masters of X's and O's, and they get a ton of praise as they should. They have really complex schemes, and players talk about it all the time. Like, they've had continuity on both sides of the ball in terms of coordinators and their entire coaching staff as much as I can remember since like around the Super Bowl they won. And they ended up firing Cam Cameron that year. But back then they just had a couple guys that hung around for a couple years, but it's been pretty in and out up until it was finally Roman and Martindale. So at this point, go win something, man.
yeah, I mean, they're a different team than the one that was 5-1 and then went into the rut that they went into and the COVID rut and all that stuff. And they've basically been in the playoffs for the past 5 weeks. That might be a little bit of a cliche, but like, it feels like they've basically been playing for their lives for over a month at this point. I feel like they're weathered, they're battle tested, they're ready to rock. And I think that Browns win was a major catalyst for them to feel like they can go toe to toe and win against anyone. And that might not totally work out against a team like the Chiefs, who's, obviously on a different level than the rest of the league right now, I think. But I don't know. I feel like going into this game, that sort of past history and the confidence building month of December is really going to help them. So not 100% confident, not going to walk into Nashville, swinging my dick around necessarily, but I am fairly confident into this team heading into the playoffs. And, it's a little bit different.
Plus, last year, that run game that they relied on so much, suddenly they didn't trust Gus Edwards to be the every down back type. They didn't trust him in the passing game. They didn't trust him in pass pro. Mark Ingram gets hurt, and then you kind of don't have horses. And they draft J.K. Dobbins, which, as we have some comments about, does Voss still hate J.K. Dobbins? Yes, he does. He will always hate J.K. Dobbins until the death of him. But you have ensured that you have juice in the backfield, that your running game is going to have juice. And at this point, you have two backs that are popping off every single week. And you actually see Mark Ingram tweet out, he retweeted the 72-yard touchdown for J.K. Dobbins and said, "Patience at the top of the run, kept his shoulders square, acceleration to the crib. That's inside zone teach tape at J.K. Dobbins." Like, they've got Ingram. Ingram is able to prepare them, it feels like, in a sense. He can assist Matt. Can't remember his name. The running backs coach, Matt. His name's escaping me.
Yeah, I know.
Ravens running back coach.
Who you're talking about, but I don't know it off the top of my head.
But they have Mark Ingram, who is able to teach those guys and get them prepared for this big matchup. Matt Weiss, that's his name. they have him able to help and say things like that and get these guys confident and ready to roll and get them in the right mindset for playoff games. Mark Ingram's played a ton of playoff games, has a few playoff wins to his resume as well. But yeah, it's time to see what this team can do. And it feels like they're getting healthy at the right time. And the Titans defense is not, and don't have all their dogs. They signed Clowney. Clowney's down. They've got a few injuries throughout that team, and we shall see. The Ravens will not overlook them this time. Moving on, B-Rose 931. If the Ravens lost Roman or Wink, would they promote someone from within or hire someone from the outside? It seems to be that Harbaugh likes to promote defensively from within and then hire like old dogs in the offensive coordinator game, the more experienced guys that aren't a threat to his job, I kind of want to say, to a degree. But at this point, it feels like Harbaugh has pretty good job security. Well, I think Ravens fans will be pretty unhappy, and Steve Bisciotti isn't happy if the Ravens go one and done for a third straight year. He's not on the hot seat if that's the case. But I think they might end up going with Hewitt to elevate to defensive coordinator. Would make sense. Jake, you mentioned on Twitter Jim Schwartz, who said he might not be in football this year, but that's another guy that has some ties as well.
Yeah, I threw that out there. I kind of got flamed by some people with that. Like, to be clear, I was not making a prediction that that's what's going to happen or that I even think that would be their first choice, but he's on a short list. And like, that's kind of what I'm talking about with Harbaugh is I feel like he keeps tabs on some of these guys where like Schwartz is a guy obviously native to the area. He's been with the Ravens organization. I don't know if there's any overlap with Harbaugh, but
I think there is overlap with Harbaugh.
Yeah, and there's ties between the Eagles and the Ravens, like all over the place. So that's just one thing where like everyone's coming after me about like scheme and stuff like that. I get it. He's 4-3. It's a little bit different, but
it's not even a thing. That 4-3 is not like a thing anymore. It's not like your defense is 3-4, 4-3. You have so many different alignments and packages.
Yeah, exactly. That's the
Ravens also are not 3-4. They run both. They are a multiple alignment front in base. They will run different looks in base.
Gotcha. Yeah. So like, I feel like I just did want to clarify that a little bit. I think like he wouldn't necessarily be my first choice or necessarily even on my list, but like, I just feel like he's a Harbaugh guy, like a guy that Harbaugh.
I like Jim Schwartz. Jim Schwartz is really well respected. A lot of big time.
Yeah. Like, and that's like, it's a total recency bias thing where everyone looks at like it going south in Philly. Well, he also helped them win a Super Bowl. I'm pretty sure he helped the Bills turn their defense around.
Their defense has always still been their strong suit and their defensive front. And they finally got Darius Slay for the first time. They finally got a corner one after years of not having shit, drafting guys in the first round and not being able to get anything done. But I think him. I saw Jim Leonard mentioned. Jim Leonard is very similar to Wink. He comes from the Rex Ryan school of fucking badass. Essentially, that's how his defense operates. Similar stuff with creeper pressures. Or the other option that comes to mind is promoting from within, which would be Hewitt, who, when we were out covering training, if you go to a training camp or you go to an open practice, Hewitt is barking at that defense. He has a lot of say and a lot of control within that defense. And
he's a younger guy. He can relate to these guys a little bit, which is like not to be underestimated in 2020 or 2021. So yeah, he's another good pick, obviously.
I would imagine that I would almost think that if he doesn't get promoted this year, he might be gone. He might get a DC job elsewhere. Really well respected within the organization. Has run
weirdly trending back that way a little bit too. You had a couple years where everyone's looking for the next Sean McVay, and there's been mixed results with that. But like Brandon Staley on the Rams is getting a ton of buzz. Robert Saleh in San Francisco getting a ton of buzz. So it's not where we were a couple years ago, where it's like it has to be some young, hot 30-year-old offensive coordinator. People are opening up a little bit.
For sure. And I think it would be, it feels like Wink kind of does want a head coaching job. Remember, there was talks of him having like a crew in mind for his coaching staff already, and got a couple interviews. So after another year where the Ravens defense has been pretty successful and forced a ton of fumbles and played some decent situational football, I think the Ravens defense has left a little bit on the board this year for sure, but also had to overcome some injuries and COVID. But that would be a realistic hire. Would be Wink Martindale. I think he definitely will get at least one more interview again. Roman, I'm not sure. I don't.
Yeah, I feel like his window was kind of last year.
I'm not sure. I just don't know if he wants to go take on a team. He is like a fucking football historian, offense historian, junkie, playbook X's and O's junkie. I think he has a lot of autonomy right now for the most part, We've mentioned that before, but I don't know if Roman is that desired, and I don't know if Roman desires that necessarily that much, is being able to really have a perfect quarterback for his system and rack up some awards and some titles and things and have that autonomy where he can focus more on the X's and O's sides of things. I don't know. I don't know Greg Roman personally. I could be completely wrong, and all he's ever wanted to be is a head coach to culminate his coaching career. But he, from what I read, is the most well-read offensive mind. He has a collection of 500 different offensive books that he has finished, and Harbaugh is not going to impede on your scheme offensively. He's not going to start telling you what to do.
It's a perfect spot for him. And like, I think sometimes fans get caught up with that. We're like, oh, it's a perfect spot. Why would he want to leave? Well, it's like most of these guys, they want to keep climbing the ladder, and like, maybe he does, maybe he doesn't, maybe he wants the perfect spot. I do think watching Kevin Stefanski take the Browns to the playoffs today for the first time in 18 years, I think he could have very well have done that with Baker Mayfield. So it's kind of unfortunate for him that he got passed over. He did interview with them, I believe. So that kind of might have been a good spot for him, but I don't know. There's other good spots, but it just doesn't feel like there's the buzz with him right now. Wink has been mentioned tangibly by people that are in the know.
Or if Jacksonville ends up with is going to end up maybe with Justin Fields, another mobile quarterback, and Roman is kind of an X's and O's guy, and they want to go in that direction. They can't get Urban Meyer, like is the report right now. I don't know.
Or if the Jets take Justin Fields, and he could wind up there if the Jets don't go with Wink.
Or the Jets. I meant the Jets. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. So like, yeah, and Connor Rogers was throwing that out big time. I think he's a fan of the idea of Wink, but Roman could be good there too, I think.
Wink would make sense for the Jets. He would be kind of the opposite of Adam Gase.
I think he's the guy who you bring in. Wink is the guy who you bring in when you have some of the talent ready to go, which I think they're going to get some talent this offseason.
Yeah, and they have some young talent as well. Quinnen Williams, Mekhi Becton, a couple guys there, a couple pieces. They'll both probably get interviews again. They got them last year. The Ravens are in the playoffs again. The Ravens have put up production and are praised on both sides of the ball, so that would make sense. B-Rose931 also asks, how concerned are you guys about Patrick Queen's development? PFF has been brutal with their rating of him. Queen, I thought, I've been a little disappointed with him just not being quite violent enough, the way he plays consistently, like trying to blow up blocks and being a little flat-footed at times, but he's been more consistent for the most part over the last month or two, and I don't know, it feels like he has a long way to go, but he makes impact plays at the same time, and I just always think back to Joe Ortiz, the Ravens head of personnel, saying after the draft this year, we drafted Patrick. Like, one of the main things we love about Patrick is that we draft him this year, and next year he would be a top 10 pick. And we got a year ahead of that and have the fifth-year option on him.
You can't teach playmaking ability. So he's shown that, and I feel like some of the stuff that he's messing up on, i.e. coverages and not knowing where he's supposed to be at times, I feel like you can coach that up, especially as he gets a little bit older here. So I don't know. Like, he's not necessarily your perfect slam dunk first round pick, but you picked him at 28 and he's, productive at the very least. So, I'm fairly impressed by him. And I get it if PFF's metrics or whatever, we have our issues with how they grade defense to begin with. But, it's kind of, to me, it feels like a eye of the beholder situation. And he's a fine piece on this team right now.
Yeah, he's got a ton of speed, a ton of explosiveness. Whenever you see him use that is when he makes impact plays. Whenever he is unsure or not as confident, he is flat-footed as a run is taking place. He doesn't know which gap he's supposed to fill. A lot of times it's the front side C gap against outside zone or a zone concept that can be inside or outside, or a outside zone with a cutback is what I'm trying to say. And he fills the front side A gap instead of the front side C gap. And then LJ Fort also fills the same A gap, and then there's not a hat there, and then a safety has to come scrambling trying to end the play.
And like, he's a smart young kid. He's not like some, goon that you're throwing out there to like be your third kind of rotational guy. He's a guy that you expect to eventually intellectually develop there. I think he's going to be just fine in that regard.
Right. And we've seen him get into the alignment game a lot, moving guys around in the front, getting really aggressive with that. Feel like he's going to take the reins over. I love LJ Fort to death. Chris Board's made some plays, but I'm very excited to see what Malik Harrison and Patrick Queen can do with the tandem that was drafted. And maybe they'll get more of an actual offseason next year if vaccines and things go well and the protocols aren't as intense. And they'll make some strides.
I will say a searcher of his own name on Twitter after games, which is a little bit of a concern.
But
Let's cut that out.
He he doesn't like getting called out for getting embarrassed in the hole.
Evidently, I mean, I'm not going to say who, but one of the hosts of the show is blocked by him on Twitter.
One of us is blocked by him on Twitter. That is for certain. But yeah, I just want to see him activate that violence more, play with more violence. And he gets a little out of control. You're supposed to gather with a wide base when you're going in the hole to greet a blocker. You're supposed to go right downhill, keep your feet under you. And he gets crisscrossed at times. He has one foot over the other and is like putting his eyes down on the floor. So I think he just needs to get his freaking tackling technique and shit going down in the hole a little bit better. And that's the part that's a little worrisome for me, because you kind of expect guys that played in the SEC to have that down pat. At this point, when you draft them, you expect them to be able to fill and hit and make those kinds of plays consistently. And you expect the coverage lapses and some mental errors more so, but simply being a linebacker, filling a hole and making a tackle hasn't been clean enough this year. So we'll see how they clean that up. Feel like it's footwork a lot as well as angles. And I feel like he'll improve. He is supposedly Edo. And from what Wink has said as well, a very quick study, a very young dude, and still not done growing mentally or physically. So I expect him to be a little bit more monstrous heading into next year physically and keep working, and we'll see where he's at. But right now, very up and down, and that is what it is.
Absolutely.
Moving on, Vicious 01. If Baltimore wins the Super Bowl, will Lamar finally get the respect he's deserved? Yes. I think if Lamar wins one or two playoff games, everyone will hail him in a completely different manner. If he advances to like an AFC championship game, let's say that they are able to beat the Titans and then go into Pittsburgh and beat the Steelers or something of that sort, or at least play like a really good game in a second game, like where he wasn't the reason they lost, like the defense couldn't get stops at the end and the other team just had the ball at the end and kicks a field goal or something. If he's able to put together two consistent turnover-free, decent performances in this playoffs, then he'll finally get respect. If he's one and done again, regardless of how well he plays, people will still talk their shit and say that nothing that he's ever done in his entire life ever matters because he hasn't had a playoff win by the time he's 24.
To some degree, and with some people, I think it will. But I think for a lot of people, the quote-unquote issues with him come down to how he played in college, and he's a different player now to then. How he played his rookie year, he's a different player now to then. He's a better passer. Frankly, it comes down to how he looks, how he talks. Some people are just never going to be able to get over that stuff. And like, whether that's like an absolute sort of outright thing where they're being malicious about it, or it's just a more deep-seated thing that, society has to deal with. And I think we've made some decent strides in that regard, but we have a lot of work to do. I don't know. I think he's always going to kind of be, to a lot of people, he's always going to be that, oh, he's a running back. He can't throw the ball. Like he can't do X, he can't do Y, he can't do like. And I hate all that shit to begin with. I don't like to focus on what players can't do. And when I think it's rooted in some more nefarious stuff in a lot of people's hearts, that really pisses me off. But unfortunately, I just think that's kind of where he's at for right now.
Yeah. And people look at Kyler Murray and, there was a lot of drama that we talked about on the show about Kyler Murray. We also like, but people wanted to start their franchise with him. That was the hypothetical, which is a bunch of crap, whatever. But it's a fun question. And you go back and look, Kyler Murray got a little bit banged up for sure. But over the last two games, which were must-win games for the Cardinals, Kyler Murray has had no tutties and a pick and finishes the year with 26 passing touchdowns and 12 interceptions. Lamar Jackson finishes the year 26 touchdowns, 9 interceptions on a lot less pass attempts. And turns it on when it mattered most. And
again, like spinning that to a positive, like, guess who gives a shit about Kyler Murray? Nobody. Like they don't boo nobodies. Like Lamar's in the mix. He's playing for a premier franchise and he's doing his thing. And like a lot of people like him and a lot of people hate him. And that's not a bad spot to be in ultimately.
Exactly. And has the two highest Baltimore Ravens quarterback ratings single season in the franchise's history. Back-to-back years with 99 this year and 113 last year, if I'm not mistaken.
Don't know off the top.
I believe, but he's a career 102 passer rating, and then people say he can't throw, and it's just fun. It's funny. But yeah, so if Lamar is able to win a playoff game, I think that'll get a lot of haters off of his back, and then if he loses in the second round, they'll say he'll never win a Super Bowl. But I think most of that shit will be dispelled if he wins a playoff game and plays well in a second game.
Like, if you're just saying like win a playoff game, like that's fine. Like that's just a meathead sports fan thing to do. Like people did that with Andy Dalton. Like it happens. So he has to do it at some point, to be fair.
Tony Romo had some troubles as well.
Yep.
Which was on the Dez catch shit as well. And plus that freaking Seahawks, him holding and being so close. If he just would have dove,
yeah,
he would have scored a touchdown, and he tried to run the ball in.
Yeah, that was tough.
That was a tough scene. But yeah, people are always going to talk their shit about Lamar. People still talk shit about Tom Brady. People still talk shit about Peyton Manning, about everyone. And Lamar in the end is the highest profile quarterback, and probably the biggest star that the Ravens have ever had.
Easily, I think. Well, yeah.
In terms of media presence and debates about him and conversation.
Yeah, with the way that the media has developed and the fact that he plays quarterback, I think that's probably the correct take.
Yes, I think he gets the views, listens. He's also in the friggin' social media generation. He is very well known, high profile player, and Ravens fans are a little more defensive. They haven't had a guy like that. Like it was like, is Joe Flacco elite? Like some Joe Flacco stuff. No one cared about Joe Flacco like that. But yeah, much more polarizing player, and he's the quarterback and the first really polarizing player that the Ravens have had on the offensive side of the ball. But it is what it is. People always hate him. Moving on, Elliot52, longtime listener from Scotland. Hey lads, looks like we are having fun out there. Dobbins and Gus with the flex emoji. They do look like they're having fun, and that's been the number one catalyst. It looks like they're playing loose but determined, and they're not having this nervous energy all the time, and there's not a bunch of frantic behavior on the field and unsure of their assignments, especially offensively. Feels like they're seeking fun, seeking confidence, seeking, the game to come to them and to get where they were, and to rattle off these 5 straight wins where you're watching teams constantly fall when they're not supposed to, lose games that they're not supposed to the entire time. There was a couple week period where no one in the AFC was, but like I just said, the Cardinals needed to win 1 game and couldn't. Did the Bears lose 2?
They lost, but I think they got in.
They did get in. The Bears couldn't get it done when they needed to. They get drummed by the Packers. Like the Ravens handled business when they needed to. The Dolphins get blown the fuck out by the Bills when the Bills are like slapdicking around a little bit and just can't even move the ball. The Raiders completely piss away a game at the end. Like the Ravens easily could have had that happen, and they did not. They ran through their opponents. They handedly beat opponent after opponent after opponent and got business done. They showed that they have the fortitude, the structure, the organization, the coaching staff, the talent, everything. And we're able to buckle down and get shit done in December. And this was a more impressive performance than what they did last year, in my opinion, down the stretch, coming out of COVID, coming out of a game where you needed to, you would have loved to have your players healthy, and you nearly kind of shock the Steelers and end up holding their offense at 12 points and can't get that one done without half of your players. People are sick. People had symptoms of COVID, whatever. You have to play the Cowboys in a short week. Like they got it done. They got it done. They got it done. They got it done with their backs against the wall. This was a very impressive performance and a testament to John Harbaugh's structure and ability to keep guys on track.
Yeah, they've been in the playoffs for the past 4 weeks. Like I said, like they're ready to rock.
They're ready to rock. They've been playing playoff games. Ravens Daily. Hollywood stepped up big time lately. Thoughts? Just him and Lamar just kept. The thing that I like about, some of the struggles they had is that they never stopped feeding Hollywood, except for the soldier comment, whatever. That's where it reached a head. But after that, part of that probably was Lamar being like, yo, maybe you're right. Like I should be airing the ball out to you. I should be looking for you. I should be giving you those deep shots. And they kept at it and kept at it and kept at it. And Lamar never looked away from him. He kept feeding him the ball, kept getting him targets, despite the fact there was some tension and some, tough situations going on and tweets and shit like that. And they overcame it with confidence. That's not an issue. You see them sitting next to each other on the sideline. They're probably fucking rapping in the car post game again if they were playing at home, like that kind of shit. So they kept at it and understand how to work, how to mold and bend their strategy, their ethic, their communication between one another. As Lamar said, I want Hollywood or Jerry Jeudy. They gave him Hollywood. So you got to make it work, man. You got to make sure that you're not the reason that Hollywood is not being maximized. And Hollywood has dropped some balls, but Lamar has never wavered in getting the ball back to him. That was cemented in that monumental win against the Browns, who had a freaking humdinger of a game today. That game was nuts, and a couple of them were. But yeah, Hollywood has been ready, it feels like, and he's had some drops and some rough moments, but continues to work, continues to separate, and you love to see that stiff arm. You love to see him fighting for yards. It's a playoffs. You can't be fucking going down. You have to fight for every yard in the playoffs. It is a one-game elimination. You have to make it happen now.
I also liked what I heard from him today in his post-game comments. Very measured, sounded, pretty mature. And he said, Lamar and I are good friends. We had some shit that we had to work through, on the field, but we got there. And that's a testament to just their relationship and it never going sour. And Lamar not being a guy like, Aaron Rodgers has earned the right to do this, but he's not like an Aaron Rodgers where it's like if you drop a pass and he just like cold shoulders you and stops throwing your way. No, he keeps going to his guys, and eventually it pays off for him like it did in the Browns game and like it did today.
Absolutely. Moving on. Angela Hester, our girl. How did the Ravens get Dobbins in the second round? What a steal. Yeah, he is a big-time back, man. He, the whole package. And we're still waiting on him to get really, really, really involved in the passing game. You don't need that, but it would be good to see a little more. We've seen a couple dump-offs to him here and there. Some different things, but total package. The patience, the acceleration, the physicality, the understanding of where to hit the hole, when to hit the hole, when to use the juice, when not to, breaking tackles left and right, doing all kinds of different stuff. He's got the stiff arms. He's got the jukes. He's got the freaking truck sticks. He can cut inside and out, up and down, left and right. He is a Madden player, like a creative player almost as a running back. Like he is the real deal. And we're waiting on him to get a little bit more integrated to the pass game, but we did see him today. I'm pretty sure it was Dobbins in the backfield on that Hollywood touchdown, the first one, where the Bengals, for the first time really all day, dialed up a blitz, and you saw him do the right thing, which is take away the inside man, the closest, the first pass rusher that will be closest, have the shortest path to your quarterback, take away the inside man. That's what he did. Filled the A-gap immediately, decisively, and gave Lamar just enough time to be able to get that ball off. So working in the pass pro game. He also fumbled in back-to-back games, and there was that viral clip of him on TikTok and whatever, of him and Harbaugh kind of talking about it. Harbaugh goes right back to him, which shows how much different John Harbaugh is than he was 10 years ago. Goes right back to him, gets him in the end zone, gets that out of his system, and he's one of, I think it was 3 rookies to have 50-plus yards and a rushing touchdown in 5 straight games. I think Jonathan Taylor might have also done that today, who had a fucking huge game as well, but yeah, Dobbins has been needed in this Ravens offense.
Yeah, I'm willing to say it. Like, whatever wide receiver they could have gotten there, or like whatever, like, I'm glad they picked Dobbins. Like, he's been kind of the missing piece to this offense, and like you can say like whatever, Justice Hill could have done that, and like whatever other running back. Like, I'm just not convinced of that. Like, I'm sorry, but like I'm not convinced that running backs are 100% devalued. I get it. Like, and even at the time I was a little like on the pick, but like it's a second round pick, and like he's doing this for you. Like, it's okay. It's okay to just every once in a while eschew the positional value thing. It's worked out in this case.
You got to have somebody that can punch the ball in, that can get first downs, make plays, and do that kind of stuff. And while there are undrafted players like James Robinson that come out, how many other undrafted running backs were there this year? 50, 100 that are on practice squads right now, and maybe some of those guys could be players, but to have a guy that can come in, immediately get right and do the damn thing, it's big. It's been big. It's been a bigger impact than really. There might be 2 or 3 guys in the draft that were drafted after J.K. Dobbins that could have a bigger impact. But if there's only 2 or 3, that means you made a pretty fucking good pick.
Well, none of them are having a bigger impact, to be clear. Like, he's having a tremendously big impact. None that any other, pick would have done better than. And like, maybe they could be as good, maybe. But like, I'm just like, are we just going to boil football down to a math equation? And it's like, you get X product, you get X value out of this position, and that's it. And there's nothing else. And like, I don't know.
The other thing is, like, he's not getting paid $15 million a year. Like, he doesn't have a huge contract. He doesn't have a ton of wear and tear on his body yet. Like, I don't love signing running backs to huge contracts because their shelf life is short. There are examples like Derrick Henry, that Dalvin Cook had a great year this year. We'll see how he ends up. He's been a guy who's had some injury problems throughout his career, but Derrick Henry is like the unicorn of the group, and he got paid a shitload and then ran for 2,000 yards and the 300 carry thing. There's only been I think Marshawn Lynch is the only running back now besides Derrick Henry to increase production after a 300 carry season. And Derrick Henry ends up with 2,000 yards and is like kind of in the MVP conversation right now, like being mentioned after everyone shits on running backs. And it's like going too far and then coming back to it, taking it too far, taking it to the extreme. You can never draft a running back. You can never do this, never do that. You need guys who can punch the ball in. You need guys who can make explosive plays in space that bring that explosive aspect to your offense. They are needed. You need a good running back. You need those good players offensively that can do the damn thing. And he's been doing it. And yes, Gus Edwards is also an undrafted free agent. Gus Edwards was not a fucking shell of, not even a shell of what J.K. Dobbins was as a rookie. He was a one-dimensional player. That
Gus Edwards was not a shade of what Gus Edwards was as a rookie right now. He's
not even close. Not even close. He was taking read option dives and shoving it down people's fucking throats, and that's about all he had. And he has developed into an amazing, pretty complete running back for the most part. He's not the best, most lethal pass catcher or anything, but in comparison to what he was in his rookie year, he's outstanding. And I think Mark Ingram, again, is a huge part to do with that. And that's why it was really nice having Mark Ingram this year, it feels like, and getting those guys confident and understanding how to be a professional running back and maybe some things to put the miles on your body for the wear and tear and how to do it right and how to be a professional and things like that. So shout out to Mark Ingram again, but you need backs. All of the teams in the playoffs have backs. Like Derrick Henry, they're about to play. The Steelers' run game isn't good enough, and they've been struggling because of it. Like Kamara, freaking
Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon,
and Jamal Williams. They signed Jamal Williams 2 years, $11 million, I think, as well. And everybody's got a back. The Chiefs drafted Clyde Edwards-Helaire and then signed Le'Veon Bell on top of it. Like, you need backs. You need guys that can take you over the top, that can go the extra mile, that can force missed tackles and get first downs when they're not supposed to.
And the argument is that the goalposts have been a little bit moved. Not to really call people, because a lot of people that I respect, like Voss is one of them, and I'm not trying to go too hard, but the argument is no, we're actually talking about the playoffs and keeping up with teams in the playoffs. If they picked Denzel Mims or whoever, I'm not sure this run would have happened the same way that it did. What I'm talking about, coming off of COVID. Imagine if they just tried to stay that pocket passing team that they were, that couldn't get their shit together offensively through certain parts of the season. I feel like them embracing who Lamar is, letting him cut it loose as a runner a little bit, and then opening up the other aspects of the run game, I think has been pretty big. And I think a lot of that does, in fact, start with the Dobbins.
His explosiveness to the perimeter. They haven't and even Edwards is not as explosive to the perimeter, not able to make plays in space to that level to bust it. It has been huge having the perimeter threat of J.K. Dobbins. Now defenses have to respect that, and it opens things up for Lamar just that much more.
Exactly.
And that is talking J.K. Dobbins with Jake and Spencer, who love him very much. Moving on. And what we said originally, I even remember draft night. We were we did the whole running back thing. At least they didn't take one the first round, but you don't love the positional value thing, but this feels like a pick that we're going to hate for a day, and then we're going to love it come October, November, December, and then boom, here we are. J.K. Dobbins is one of the playmakers in the NFL right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hell yeah. Moving on. Where was I? Fiore Lucas. Are the Browns a more complete team than the Steelers entering the playoffs? More complete team? No, because the Browns defense does not have the same. The Steelers defense is missing Dupree, missing Spillane. I think the Steelers have a better defensive scheme to limit big plays and force turnovers and things. I think I would take the Steelers defense over the Browns defense. TJ Watt has been a high impact player, while the Browns do have Myles Garrett as well. I think the Steelers just have an overall better defensive scheme and are more consistent defensively. But they do run the ball a hell of a lot better than the Steelers. So that'll be an interesting matchup back to back. But the Steelers kind of showed, they were fucking around with Mason Rudolph and almost ruined the Browns season.
Yeah, I would take the Browns offense, but I would take the Steelers defense, and their offense can kind of get going a little bit when they need to. It's not like big plays or anything like that, but they can move the ball a little bit. And I would take the Steelers coaching staff for sure. I think they're a little more battle tested.
That's also true. That is a good point. But the Steelers offense has had some rough patches, and it felt like maybe they had a get-right game against the Colts. We shall see. But two of the three playoff teams in the AFC North. And moving on, Nico LaFera, 98. What a fucking way to close out the season. Flock gang, baby. Hell yeah, Nico. Talk that talk.
Absolutely.
We've also got Irk48. Not a question, but how much can we appreciate? Not much of a question, but can we just appreciate how much of a great teammate Mark Ingram is? Yes, we can. We can absolutely appreciate that.
Absolutely. If he never plays another game for the Ravens, he will still manage to go down as one of my favorite players of recent years.
He gets the boys fired up. He knows how to get the blood pumping, get everybody right, the right mindset. Always a very positive dude. Didn't hear a ton of talk about him. How many players at this point in his career, after what he did last season, are bitching and moaning and not just as bright of a personality as he is right now? Definitely. Plus, he wants to be a TV personality. We all know that. He has that great podcast and makes appearances on Good Morning Football like all the time and on NFL Network all the time. And he's got a bright future in that as well.
Cool.
D Problem Fitness. Can the Ravens re-sign Bowser and Yannick? Yeah, they definitely can. Will they? We do not know.
Yeah, we'll see.
Then more questions about Ingram, which we addressed in the playoffs. Kogi Berra. Sorry, Jake, your Kane tax plan reference was poetic, but I'm sure you're happy it didn't come true.
Yeah, that was definitely a bit by me, so it's cool to see him break that 1K. It would have been fucking hilarious, though.
It was so close because he got he was at 998 and they were up maybe 24-3. And I literally was laying there like thinking about it, like watching the game. I was like, damn, Jake is going to be 1 yard off. So close. That would suck. It would be even better if it was you being 1 yard off.
That would have been funnier. Yeah, I would have enjoyed that too. But the 999 would have been funny.
Yes, that was awesome. Almost an incredible call. And what did he end up breaking it by like 10 yards or something?
I feel like they kind of just did it because Roman talked about like before the game, like he said, we can dial that up if we have to when it's getting close, and they managed to do it. So
yeah, so it shows that Roman wanted that one. He's like, I am the fucking running quarterback guru. I have the only one. Oh, yeah. That's a little bit of a mantle or trophy on your mantle. Pardon me. Grant H2. Pardon me. Is our run defense, the Ravens' run defense, still a concern with how many holes the Cincinnati running backs were finding? Yeah, there's some problems for sure. I think missed tackles are a big problem. I don't think the issue is up front that much. At that point in the game, they do let up one monster run. Marlon Humphrey hunts that down, tries to whack the ball out, but they're not playing the run at that point. They are not worried about you running the ball. They want you to run the ball. They're inviting you to with alignments. They're inviting you to with how many players they have in the box. They want you to drain clock. They don't want passing plays. Getting started, getting momentum in the passing game, Allen to start seeing things downfield and start dicing you up. So, yeah, I think there is some reason to be worried. I think tackling has been pretty shitty for the Ravens this year overall. A lot of guys missing a lot of tackles. They do rally to the ball somewhat well, but, that Titans game, missed tackles lost that game. And that was a major part of it. So, definitely something to watch for and cannot be an issue as you have guys like Patrick Queen leading the NFL in missed tackles. Guys like Marcus Peters, who kind of selectively choose when to play physically. He's been limited as well. And you saw him kind of grab at a towel and then get really mad at himself for missing a tackle at one point on, I think, Tyler Boyd and some various things. So a little scary, shoddy tackling wise. We'll see how that turns out. Doesn't feel like
that's going to be a big emphasis point in the defensive meetings this week with Mr. Henry on the docket.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I didn't see a ton of run from him. I want to go back and watch Justin Madubuike today. I feel like he's got to get some run, but they're not going to give the rookie that much time. Moving on, Kogi Berra also said, Lamar Jackson making history with not only 2,000-yard rush seasons, but back-to-back at that. Yeah, he did the damn thing.
Yeah, hopefully he can go for the Tom Amansky back-to-back next year with another 1K.
Have to think if Joe Flacco had not been able to go for some reason early on, maybe. Who knows how that rookie season plays out, but would have been pretty.
He would have gone for, you talk about Derrick Henry, Lamar Jackson would have run for 2K with the 18 or 16 games of that offense in 2018.
Because that really, really, really took the league by storm. People were not running the option like that in the NFL. Whitehead Will. Players you're most surprised by this year overall on offense and on defense. I'll start. Not number one, but one of them that comes to mind immediately is DJ Fluker. He had a dog shit couple of appearances in the middle of the season, or I guess early on. No, they went with Tyree Phillips and then ends up getting into the lineup. he was plodding out of his stance. He was slow off the ball. He was reaching a ton. He was overextended. He got absolutely worked at right tackle when Ronnie Stanley went down and TJ Watt kind of started blowing him up. Gets taken out of the lineup, gets put back in the lineup, and he has been damn solid ever since. I would say if there's someone that is really trying to maul, it is him. They don't have anyone who's like burying bodies into the ground. I wouldn't call them maulers, more of a disciplined offensive line at this point, but he has been the big body searching for work. He's had some explosive blocks and is throwing some weight around. So I've been very happy to see that. Who comes to mind for you, Jake?
On offense, I'm going to go with Gus Edwards. Like he's showing even a different gear than I thought he had going in.
And we loved him this past offseason. We're like, our big thing was you might not need to draft a back because you have Edwards.
Yeah, exactly. But like even I just thought we were going to get what we got in 2019, which was great. But like it wasn't what we're seeing right now with him getting involved in the passing game, somehow making that work. He's like doesn't really look super natural as a passer, but like he just kind of has this weird kind of languid sort of smooth move to him when he has the ball in his hand. So I like what I see with Gus Edwards. Pretty surprised.
I agree with that sentiment for sure. I think Bradley Bozeman you put in there as well because he's stepped up a bit. He's gotten beaten. He's not the best athlete, but pulling, does some great things on pulls and has improved to a point that I thought he might not be able to reach at guard and might need to be stuck at center. And I still think he would be a better center than he is at guard, but he's solidified himself among the good guards in the league, the guys who probably start on most teams at this point. And a guy who was unheralded coming out of Alabama after having a really successful career and being a part of some good teams. On the defensive side of the ball, I would say Patrick Queen has disappointed me that way a little bit with some of the missed tackles, as well as I think Justin Madubuike surprises me in the sense that he didn't really have a hot start necessarily and then really turned it on down the stretch. Been a violent, explosive player. It's tough for a rookie defensive lineman to make an impact. And it's not like he has 6 sacks or something. He only has like 1, but he has been super violent, great hands, done a ton of great stuff. I've been obsessed with his tape lately. He has been putting out quality rep after quality rep against some pretty tough opponents over the past like month or so.
Deshaun Elliott has surprised me on the defensive side of the ball. I don't know what I was expecting from him play-wise, but the fact that he's been bringing the wood so hard on a lot of these big hits has been pretty sick to see. And a guy that I just, wasn't super high on. I thought the injuries were probably piling up and they were going to affect him a little bit, but he's slotted in there for Earl Thomas and done a nice job. So Deshaun Elliott, I got to give him credit.
We were unsure of what he would be. Tons of talk about how much guys loved him in practice, and you've seen some good preseason stuff, and he started to make a couple of plays in limited action last year before he goes down. But also the fact that he's been able to stay healthy has been a pleasant surprise as well. Moving on, Kogi Bear again. Do y'all think JK has a chance for Offensive Rookie of the Year, or does Herbert have it locked in? I think that Justin Jefferson should be Rookie of the Year. I'm sick of this quarterback shit at every award. Justin Jefferson has put together an all-time rookie season. Herbert, I guess, has 2, but like got kind of drummed at times at an off game or 2. Justin Jefferson is doing, the fact that he is like a top 10 receiver in this league right now, creating separation on anybody and everybody, mossing people, dancing on dudes in the open field, getting into the end zone, consistently putting up numbers. I mean, he's having an all-time great rookie season at wide receiver, and I think he should be Offensive Rookie of the Year. And no, I do not think J.K. Dobbins has a chance. Jonathan Taylor would probably get it over J.K. Dobbins.
Yeah, Dobbins doesn't just because of the numbers. I feel like if he had done this, the whole bell cow thing over 16 games, he'd definitely have a chance, but no, not this year.
Moving on, young GOAT Jalen. Who would you not like for us to play in the first round of the playoffs?
That's
I don't care. Go play the toughest team. Like I don't care.
Yeah, we can skip that.
Moving on, Matt Wilden. Would you rather play the Titans or the Colts?
We can skip all those. They sent those in before the.
I think the easy answer is that probably the Colts because you beat them. But
I definitely rather play the Colts. But like also like this is way more fun.
Yeah, and yes, I agree. Joe Boykin and JC, is Patrick Queen up for the challenge as a starter? Yeah, he definitely is. He wants all the smoke. He definitely wants all the smoke. Moving on, Jay Fritz 410801. Will Chuck Clark bring the head shears to chop the thing growing on Derrick Henry's head?
Rude.
I guess his braid. He wants to chop his braid, chop his
hair
braid off.
We didn't. No, we're not doing that.
He also asked, will Lamar have a mysterious case of diarrhea in the second half of the upcoming Titans game?
Well, shit, if it works.
The curious case of the diarrhea.
If it works out like it did against the Browns.
The curious case of the diarrhea.
I certainly do hope
Yes,
so.
that would be great. But the curious case of Benjamin Button's diarrhea. No, Lamar ain't getting no dang diarrhea this time. He playing 4 quarters.
Cramps, by the way.
And that does it. We ended on a low note. That does it for the Instagram mailbag. Appreciate you guys. Now, if you want to head on over to Twitter.
Going to kind of roll through some of these. I'm sure we covered most of it with the IGs because we had a lot on there, which is great. But the first one that I wanted to single out was from our buddy Jordan. Harbaugh making the playoffs his first 3 years with 2 different quarterbacks seems pretty cool. I agree. It does seem cool. That's a good stat and a testament to, once again, John Harbaugh reinventing himself into a new generation.
John Harbaugh has done a great job reinventing himself. I agree.
Justin Tucker's golden vocal cords. Do we really think Wink is getting poached this offseason? I think we sort of covered this a little bit. I would feel in 50-50, but I do feel like of the 2 guys, he's the most likely to get hired.
I think you steal Wink. I think Wink's gone.
Okay. Yeah, I think the Jets should be all over him. Robert Estes, how happy was Spencer that Dobbins finally broke off that long touchdown?
Man, I was really happy. He's had so many 20-plus yard runs, so many explosive plays, and had to make like 3 guys miss instead of like 1 or 2, and hasn't been able to catch a seam. But like Mark Ingram said, he stayed square and hit the juice at the exact right time, hit the R2 button, pulled the trigger, and scooted. He showed that speed that he has. And I think people don't understand, he is fucking fast in a straight line. Like, he has burners. He can outrun a defense. He just hasn't gotten the right seam to. And hopefully that gets him going in that direction a little bit, because he destroyed Clemson in the national championship, had a monster run, outran everybody. Isaiah Simmons almost ran him down. Isaiah Simmons runs 4.3, and that gives you an idea of Dobbins' speed. He didn't run at the combine, but for me, he's a 4.4 guy, like a low 4.4 guy, and I loved seeing him get a chance to finally bust one.
He's so fucking fast. You can see it on those sweeps too. Him just getting to the edge with a running start it's insanity. Protectio Neck. Love the podcast, boys. I learned a lot from y'all. Thank you. Feeling great about the playoffs. Ready for whoever we get. If we pull the Titans, what's the biggest thing we have to change from the last 2 games against them?
Simply and without any analysis, they need to tackle better, and they need to be more prepared for those double moves, those in-breakers that break back out. That's how the Titans hurt them. AJ Brown's a problem, man. He is a fucking problem. And Marlon Humphrey needs to find the alpha inside of him somehow. Maybe Jimmy Smith is the guy, even, because AJ Brown is enormous. And AJ Brown cooked Marlon Humphrey on the first play of the offensive play that the Titans had. Marlon had to grab him. He gave up like a 40-yard DPI. I think just taking AJ Brown out of the game is essential.
Absolutely. And don't shoot yourself in the foot and make stupid mistakes and throw an interception up 17-7.
Yep. Take the low-hanging fruit. Check down.
Ravens burner. Win or lose next week, this team has been so much fun the last few years, especially after the tedious end of the Flacco era. #blessed, #perspective. That's a good way of looking at it. No matter what happens, this has been a fun ride.
Missed 3 straight years of playoffs, 2015 through 2017, right? And then now back in for 3.
Absolutely. Amanda Hugginkiss postseason. Congrats on another season of the pod. Another great season of the pod. Thank you. Kind of a joke, but does Mike Preston actually enjoy watching Ravens games? Following his Twitter, he always seems to have a ho-hum attitude when the Ravens play.
It's his fucking shtick. It's his shtick.
I
cover the Ravens. I'm the one who covers the Ravens, so I got to be the jerk about it. Everything's got to be bad.
That's a good impression of him. Mike's checked out. He's just riding that golden parachute all the way down, and he's apparently a pretty nice guy. Kyle's run into him at camp a few times, so don't take it too serious. Mike's just being Mike. Ravens burner. I'm feeling pretty good about this game. Last game versus Titans was without Williams, Ward, and Campbell, and Hollywood and Gus had 6 combined yards. Yeah, I feel like that's going to be a little bit better. Tony Ferrari. How much pleasure did the JK stiff arm on Pratt bring you? I didn't even realize it in the moment, but afterward it was content city when Pratt got stiff armed and beat to the corner.
Tough scene. As Jake would say, mega tough scene.
Mega tough scene for our friend Jermaine there. Seth Jones, Roman finally spreading it out for Lamar instead of his bunched up Navy style he was running has unlocked this offense. Everyone said, spread it out. And now they have.
To an extent, they're also averaging. They actually average more yards per carry. I saw this Next Gen Stats has them with more yards per carry. Going into this game, it was 5.9 yards per carry as opposed to 5.2, I think. 5.9 yards per carry against stacked boxes, which is 8 or plus defenders in the box, which is fucking crazy. They've just been relying on the counter concepts, the misdirection stuff, and linebackers don't know what to do. And again, other teams run that. Like, it is a staple of Oklahoma's offense with Jalen Hurts and with Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray runs it on the Cardinals. Like, other teams run it, but Lamar's burst is just not of this planet. If there's an alien on this planet, and I have to accuse someone, I'm first accusing Lamar. He gets going so quick from that mesh point and destroys angles, and it's been next level. So that has really turned up, and they've been running that. I mean, they ran that play against the Browns week 17 to get into the playoffs. Like, they ran some counter stuff, and Lamar had the touchdown, like the 8-yard touchdown, where he like kind of hit the hole and did a little jackrabbit hop and then took off again in that game. And that was the same thing, but they were like, all right, well, no one's fucking stopping it. So we're just going to run it 10 times a game now. And no one is stopping it with any consistency. And I don't really know how to stop it.
Yeah, the alien talk is going to get us picked up by Rogan. He's deep in the alien stuff right now on Instagram. JBert84. Of all the teams who needed to win or get in, the Ravens were the only ones to make a statement. I think this third year from Lamar could be special. Yeah, it's the right way to go into the playoffs, no doubt.
No doubt. And Lamar to really hit an MVP type finish to the year. I think Josh Allen definitely did it a little bigger and a little better over the second half, but Lamar's really turned it on, and they needed him to. So it's been good. I feel like it's given Ravens fans a lot of ease into like thinking, is Lamar a franchise quarterback? After a tough start, like maybe last year was fluky or something. I never felt that way personally, but at this point it's hard to look at Lamar and be like, I don't know if that's a guy you want to pay. Like, yeah, that's a guy you want to fucking pay.
Yeah, a little bit. Calvin, non-Ravens related question. Whose season is more impressive? CJ2K's 2,000-yard season or Derrick Henry's? CJ2K was fucking sick. I remember that relatively vividly, but maybe a little recency bias, but like I never thought we were going to see another 2,000-yard rusher. So kudos to Derrick Henry, big time.
I don't know how he does it. He is a tank.
He's a beast. Orioles Haiku, can we as a fan base make sure Jermaine Pratt does not stop getting Twitter notifications for the next few days? We can't and we won't.
Can't stop, won't stop.
And then he follows up with a GIF of Dobbins, or it's not a GIF, it's like a video with like the colorized shit, and it says it's him running the touchdown, and it says the Baltimore Ravens just ran all over this tweet, and it's like quote tweeting the nope over for them tweets. So that's pretty good. Good meme work. Edwin, would you rather have this year's Ravens team going to the playoffs or last year's team?
Has to be this year's team, because last year's team, like I mentioned, they had the trophy in mind. They had the gold in sight and forgot to win the trials and win what they needed to and keep things in front of them. And Lamar fucking said it, and Harbaugh hated that, and it might not have been Harbaugh's fault. The whole time Harbaugh might have been preaching, don't get ahead of yourselves. They just went into New England and beat Tom Brady, like maybe, and the players were like, yeah, whatever. Like they're like, fuck Ryan Tannehill, like whatever, like not realizing what was happening. And then a disciplined, talented offense and team came in and handed them their ass on a silver platter, and they thought they were playing the Chiefs. They were like, oh, well, time for KC. No, it was not. The Titans came in and rolled on them, and then the Titans had a 10-0 lead in KC, and put the Chiefs had to dig their heels in a little bit. So it was a learning experience, and this team needed that learning experience. Would I like to have Ronnie Stanley and Marshall Yanda? Fuck yeah, but they lost with them. So at this point, this team has rattled off some wins. They know what they have to do, and they got to just go do it. I would take this.
Certifiably riding the wave. So these next two we can kind of combine. We have Ben Walk saying, what's the recipe for beating the Titans? And then Dobbin and Weavin says, Titans matchup. Will having our D-line healthy, a gassed-up offensive line, and the ability to actually sub some defensive players so they aren't too tired to tackle in the fourth quarter help? I think it will. Ravens by 10 is his prediction. So kind of just an overall, these are the last two from Twitter. just an overall general recipe for beating the Titans. We'll obviously get more into it, but what do you think off the top?
I just want them to take away AJ Brown. If you can take AJ Brown out of this game, I think you have a chance. You can live with Derrick Henry kind of beating you up a little bit, running for 100 and something on 30 carries, scoring a touchdown or whatever. But AJ Brown is a problem at all three levels. You can't let him get going. You can't let him stick those daggers in you again. And you need Marcus Peters to really be able to play Corey Davis. And he struggled with him very badly. He was turning Marcus Peters around. So they need to mix up what they were doing. They were playing a lot of single high, a lot of cover 3 type looks, and it did not work. Change that up, and I think you're good. And really focus attention on AJ Brown, and I think you're good.
Yeah, just keeping you like what you've been doing the last couple games as well is going to be big. Like, don't try to say like, oh, it's the playoffs now, we need to do X, Y, and Z. Just keep sticking with the formula of like, keep it simple, let Lamar cut it loose with his legs a little bit. And yeah, I definitely like whatever you can do to take away AJ Brown, try to do it. I'm not sure like to what extent that's going to work, but he's obviously their biggest weapon on offense outside of Derrick Henry. Moving into the stream questions to close things out. Braden, 1986 on Periscope. How about them Ravens? How about them? Then we have the Chris Collinsworth thing from Ben Rose. Darker Knight says, great suggestion. WB Caps, apologies for running it back, but Jake, Everybody Wants Some versus Dazed and Confused. Two of my favorite movies, I would say.
Still need to watch Everybody Wants Some.
Yeah, you got to check that out. It's good. Dazed and Confused is, I think, the better movie, but Everybody Wants Some comes close. And like as a spiritual sequel and something that came out 20 plus years later, that's really fucking impressive. And I think is a movie that kind of fits this time a little better and is going to do hopefully the same thing for this time or for the people in this time that Dazed and Confused did for people in the early 90s. Darker Knight. Al Michaels. So this is his impression for your Al Michaels impersonation. And it is caught. How was that?
That is a good one.
Yeah, okay. Matt Eckert, there's never been a better cup of coffee than Folgers to wake up to. I got to disagree. I'm not a huge Folgers guy. This might be a little bougie, and I don't always do it because, it can run on the wild a little bit, but you pick up the bags of the Dunkin' coffee. That really gets
I like
me.
the bags of the McDonald's coffee.
Please tell me you're joking.
No, I like the McDonald's ground beans. I
don't know if I believe you right now.
I get McCafe coffee, like a bag full of grinded up McCafe.
Where do you get that?
Walmart, baby. Where I get everything.
Okay. That's a surprise, but
McCafe, I love their coffee. It is delicious.
I don't dislike it. I don't love it. I don't dislike it. Like,
I've never ordered it at McDonald's. I've never had a coffee from McDonald's. I've only gotten the beans or the fucking grounds from Walmart and make coffee with that, and it is dank.
One of my go-to hangover moves is, and I was tweeting about this the other day, McDonald's, 2 hash browns, a little sausage, egg McMuffin, and get that big cup of coffee with a lot of cream in it. That'll help you with the old hangover.
There you go. Pickle juice. Pickle juice is my solution to hangovers.
Okay. Yeah, I do. There's plenty of different, schools of thought or solutions or whatever, but just find out what works for you. William Bounds, W. Yes. Mark Burnside. Thank God we don't have Earl giving material to Tennessee. Worry about us, not Tennessee. Yeah, Earl, he doesn't need to be in the mix right now.
There will be no bulletin board material presented to the Tennessee Titans. I assure you of that.
Yeah, and in fact, I think the Titans are probably going to try to psych him out again, and we'll see if it works this time.
Yeah.
Tyler _2151 or 21521 revenge time. Yes, I agree. Ben Rose, Voss still probably disapproves of the decision to draft Dobbins. He will. He hates J.K. Dobbins' guts, and he wishes he was nowhere near this team. Darker Knight, I'm a little worried about Marlon. He looks hurt. Maybe it's the result of COVID or his other injury, but he looks a little slower than usual.
He said Ingram?
Marlon.
Marlon had a good game last week. He also had an amazing rep on a slant flat combination that was actually a pick to throw a flat, and he boiled through that like a madman, took a crazy angle and forced a bad throw. Also last week, he chased that reverse from, I think, Sterling Shepard against the Giants. Sterling Shepard had a nice reverse. I believe it was Jihad Ward, had no clue it was coming, didn't set the edge. Marlon fucking booked across the field like a Tasmanian devil, and then actually it was Ingram, and clipped Ingram out of bounds. So I think he's definitely. I mean, what do you mean? He chased down the fucking running back too today.
Yeah, he almost
was flying on that.
He almost stripped that ball from that guy. I
want to see the miles per hour. He was definitely above 21 because he like kinda was not all out from the very beginning, and then he got into his 110 hurdles form and
Metcalf mode and just
hunted him down.
William Bounds, we would have won the Titans game if Bailey had gone. He bailed on the boys last minute to go to an Ariana concert with his girlfriend. And then the next follow-up is from somebody named Bailey Kaniki with a sunglasses emoji. So fuck you, Bailey. What are you doing, man? Go to the game. I'm assuming this is a playoff game pre-COVID and all that, because an Ariana concert in these uncertain times, let's be real. Come on.
Rough scene.
Will Whitehead with the double horns up. Love it. Darker Knight, do you think Ingram will be active in the playoffs? Already covered that. I think our answer is no there. Matt Eckert says playoff football isn't supposed to be easy. I think it will be an exciting game and we get the W. Hope so. Engelberg H, what is your ideal scenario you want to see for a divisional round matchup if we beat Tennessee? I think if they win, they get Kansas City no matter what, right?
No, because they're the 5. If another wild card won, then that wild card would get Kansas City.
Okay.
The lowest remaining seed gets Kansas City.
Gotcha. Darker Knight says cute dog Spencer, smiley face. I agree. He was
hopping around back there.
Yeah, earlier. Yeah. Darker Knight, I hope we get Kevin Harlan in the playoffs. Me too. After this, shower that we just had to take today with these clowns, I hope we do get a Kevin Harlan for our the Ravens 1 p.m. game that Jeff tweeted out earlier. I should have mentioned that, against the Titans on Saturday.
Yeah. I hope they get Jeff Harlan next week. That's what I want.
Kevin Harlan?
Or Kevin Harlan, yeah.
Matt Eckert, I love when it works, but I feel like we are missing some tackles when the corners go for the punch out. Yes, but I prefer they go for it no matter what, because it's like 3 yards usually at the game.
Yeah, sometimes that fucks you, but if you get one, it's totally worth it. If you get one.
Yeah, turnovers are a massive deciding factor, so always go for it. Liam Ridings, interesting. Any tips for a novice eager to enter into sports reporting / writing? We don't really know too much about like reporting. Like you probably want to go to school for like being a real journalist if you want to do that. But like as far as what we want to do, I would say my main piece of advice would be to just like do shit. Like just start a blog or like start a YouTube channel or like even a podcast. And like if no one's like reading it or listening to it or whatever, like that's fine. Just like do it for 3-6 months, like set a certain amount of episodes or like months that you want to do it and just stick with it. And then like eventually when that's ready, maybe you go to like your local SB Nation, maybe a Baltimore Beatdown, and you send it to maybe a Kyle Barber by chance, and he'll have a look at it. And then you can
you can be a boober bomber.
You can be a boober, part of the boober hive.
Definitely just try and interact with people on different forms of social media and ask people to come on show. Like if you make a podcast, just ask people to come on. And when we like literally nobody was listening to us and we're still relatively small, but like even early on, like we just asked big names and like a lot of them just said like, yeah, because like people are just nice and they just have the time and they'll help you. They like to talk. A lot of people in this industry like to talk. So that always helps too.
Exactly. KJ Sports _talk. The Titans game will come down to time of possession. Interesting take, maybe.
Titans game will come down to Lamar like throwing the ball away and checking down when he needs to.
Absolutely. Wannabe Ken says Liam Ridings, be sure to read / watch a lot of sports reporters and writers, see how the best do the best work and see how the worst do bad work and learn from both. I think that's good advice and he appreciates it. Okay, not reading that from Matt Eckert. RC at Spencer, where can I buy that Ravens cap you were wearing?
I had some trials and tribulations. I think they have it at dicksportinggoods.com. Or on the Ravens website. They might be out of them by now, but me liking a lot of mixed reviews of this hat, but it has been my lucky hat.
It's going to be polarizing, but it is your lucky hat at this point. I like it though. I'm on the positive camp, but that was an ordeal and it was, pardon me for reveling in your misfortune, but it was fun to watch from the outside, you acquiring that hat and that jersey that you got. Liam Riding says, go off, Jake. Thank you. Morgan0282 in Periscope says, go Titans. Fuck off, Morgan. No, don't go Titans. Ben Rose, AFC greater than NFC. Am I right, fellas? Yes, but like I'm not a huge conference pride guy. But I think that's probably true this year for sure. Alexander Forlenza, Steelers or Browns next week? I'm gonna go Steelers. What about you?
Yeah, I've got the Steelers bringing it. I think they're ready.
Absolutely. Kyle, our good friend of the show, Mr. Barber. What's good, guys? With the smile. What's good with you, buddy? How'd your stream go? Matt Eckert, Folder. I assume he means Folgers. Folgers is garbage. I was playing Collinsworth. Well, thank you for telling me that you were playing there, because you never know when people like trash coffee or they like it gourmet. Many people have their takes. They like it black. They like it with cream. They like it a lot of different ways. So I certainly didn't know, but I appreciate you following up on that. Ben Rose, Mike Preston is comic book guy from The Simpsons. LOL. Was never a Simpsons guy. That's a good reference. Yes. Okay. Fair enough. Darker Knight. Okay. No longer worried about Marlon. Thank you. You're welcome. Look at that.
Marlon's good. He had a rough couple weeks. He was getting a little out of control, but he's been making his play still, and he's going to get in the right mindset for the playoffs. He is a consummate professional and a film junkie and a world-class athlete. He is good to go. He's made some plays the last couple of weeks.
And Kyle closes it out with looks like an @ Liam. Start a blog, write, do stuff, learn how to write. Yeah, just do shit. Just my motto in life is just take it bats. Just
if you listen to this podcast, you probably like the Ravens. You can probably email or tweet at Kyle Barber or at Baltimore Beatdown or at Ravens Wire or at Ebony Bird or any of those, and start putting some finger to freaking keyboard and getting some stuff going and seeing how you like it.
That's how I did it. I emailed Kyle a submission back in like early 2016. He put out an email blast, I think right around the time he took over, asking for just samples. And I just wrote up a 1-page sample of an article that I would have written. And I sent it to him and he said, hey, you want to hop on with us? So just do something like that. Just write. Okay. That is all the comments we have. And I feel like that is a show at an hour and 50 minutes. What do you think?
That is a show. The Ravens have made the playoffs for the third straight year behind a valiant 5-game run, 6-5 to 11-5. 11-5 wins you some divisions sometimes. So it has been a joy going through this regular season. We're excited for the playoffs. Thank you to all of our listeners and all of our fantastic mailbag questions we've gotten throughout the season. We've been very mailbag heavy, trying to engage with you guys and be a part of a bigger collective and bigger community. So I've enjoyed doing mailbags and things like that. And we appreciate you guys. We'll be cranking out some content this week. We will try and get someone from the Titans to come on, or covers the Titans rather, and get some good stuff for you this week. It is time. It is the playoffs. It is 2021. 2020 is behind us. We made it out of that shitty year, and we are into a fantastic one. I just know it. So stay safe out there, and let's see the Ravens give us a classic playoff game. That's all we want.
Absolutely. Let's just have some fun with it. They made it. It certainly looked like they were not going to at one point. They turned around the ship. Let's everyone turn around the ship in 2021. Have ourselves a good old time. And let's hope the Ravens have a good old time this weekend. We will, of course, be talking to you again before that happens, trying to pump out some content and get a preview show up, obviously, before the game. So going to be a fun week. Everybody stay tuned to our social channels and stay tuned for that preview show that'll probably be coming out on Friday or thereabouts. But in the meantime, appreciate you guys checking this Mondo episode out. Went almost 2 hours, hopping back in the studio for the first time in a little while. Feels right. But yeah, again, appreciate it. Follow us on social media. If you're not already, you can follow the show at Podcast Beatdown. Follow me at Jake Luke. That is LOUQUE. Spencer is at Ravens for Dummies, and check out at Be More Beatdown for the flagship page run by Kyle and I. Appreciate everyone tuning in. Have yourselves a great week. And like I said, we will talk to you again very, very soon.
See ya.
Playoffs. Arrivederci.